Maud Kingsley stood in the freezing dust outside the stagecoach office, while her medical bag lay open at her feet, its instruments scattered for every cruel eye in Cottonwood Falls. The boarding house keeper had thrown her trunk into the street. The town doctor had called her a fraud, and hunger made her hands shake too hard to gather her things. Across the road, Martin Sutter sat on a tired bay horse, with two orphan twins pressed behind him, their faces thin with loss. He had come needing a wife before the court took those children. She needed one roof that would not slam shut. Before we begin, leave your country name below, and tell me where this western night is reaching you. Subscribe if stories of rejected brides, protective cowboys, and hard-earned love keep you listening. By the time the noon train whistled beyond the cottonwoods, half of Cottonwood Falls had gathered to watch Maud Kingsley lose the last of what she owned. Her trunk had landed crooked in the dust. One hinge had split. A sleeve of her gray dress hung out like a torn flag. Beside it lay her medical bag, spilled open by the boarding house keeper's boot. Bandage rolls, a stethoscope, brown bottles, and polished steel instruments caught the hard winter light. "Pick them up and move along," Mrs. Bell said from the porch. Her arms were folded tight under her shawl. "I will not have a woman with your kind of trouble sleeping under my roof." Maud knelt, but the hunger in her stomach bent her slower than pride would allow. She had not eaten since the biscuit a farm wife gave her the morning before. Her fingers closed around a thermometer, then slipped. A boy snickered from the hitching rail. "Dr. Lady can't even doctor herself," someone muttered. Maud kept her head down. She had learned that public shame got worse if you tried to argue with it. Dust clung to the hem of her black dress. The dress had been respectable once, proper for a woman physician trying to prove herself in places that did not believe such a woman could exist. Now it was patched at the cuff and worn pale at the elbows. Across the street, Dr. Ephraim Vale stood under the awning of his office, with a cigar pinched between two fingers. He was a thin man with a silver beard and a smile that never warmed his eyes. "I warned you all," he called, loud enough for the town to hear. "A city certificate can be printed by anyone with ink. Cottonwood Falls has no need of a wandering woman pretending at medicine." Ma's face burned. "I never pretended," she said quietly. But quiet truth rarely traveled farther than loud lies. Behind the watching crowd, a horse shifted and stamped. Maud looked up only because the animal's bridle jingled. A broad-shouldered man sat in the saddle of a tired bay, his hat pulled low, his coat brown with trail dust. Behind him, crowded together on the horse's blanket, sat two children no older than 5, a boy and a girl, twins by the look of them. Same dark hair, same solemn blue eyes, same thin wrists showing from sleeves too short. The man was Martin Sutter. Maud knew his name because the town had whispered it since she arrived 3 days earlier. A widower, though some said he had never had a wife. A rancher from the North Flats. A man who had taken in his dead brother's children after fever, emptied a wagon camp near Willow Creek. A grieving cowboy who did not speak unless words were necessary, and sometimes, not even then. The twins stared at Maud's scattered instruments as if they had never seen anything so fine. Martin Sutter stared at Dr. Vale. "What proof have you got that she's a fraud?" Martin asked. His voice was low, but it cut through the street better than shouting. Dr. Vale's smile thinned. "A respectable doctor does not get dismissed from a hospital and arrive alone with no letters of recommendation. A respectable man does not kick a hungry woman's bag into the dirt," Martin said. The street fell still. Mrs. Bell stiffened. "Mr. Sutter, you would do well not to meddle. That woman brought disgrace with her." Martin looked at Maud then, not kindly, not warmly, just straight, as if he expected the truth and had room for it. "Did you harm someone?" he asked. Maud swallowed. The old memory pressed cold behind her ribs. A white hospital room, a man gasping, a senior physician arriving too late, a signature stolen, a blame placed where it would be easiest. "No," she said. Dr. Vale laughed once. "Every guilty woman says that. Martinez swung down from the saddle. The twins stayed where they were, small hands locked around the saddle horn. He crossed the street without haste. Men made room for him. My bay, because he was tall. My bay, because grief gave him an air of danger. My bay, because he looked like a man who had already lost too much to fear losing more. He crouched, picked up the stethoscope, wiped the dust from it with his sleeve, and handed it to Maud. "Can you treat children?" he asked. Maud looked toward the twins. The little girl's cheeks were pale. The boy held his left hand against his chest under his coat, as if hiding pain. "Yes," Maud said. "If someone lets me." Martin nodded once. "Then come with me." The words sent a murmur through town. Mrs. Bell gasped. Dr. Vale stepped off the boardwalk. "Sutter, think carefully. You have a court man coming next week. You are already under question." "I know what I'm under," Martin said. The little girl on the horse whispered, "Uncle Martin." He turned, and Maud saw his face soften so briefly it hurt to look at. "It's all right, Lila." The boy leaned against his sister. Martin noticed. The softness vanished into worry. Maud rose, clutching her medical bag in one hand and her torn pride in the other. "Your boy is ill. Caleb has been coughing nights," Martin said. "Lila, too, some. I came for medicine, but Vale wanted papers signed before I'd look at them." Dr. Vale's jaw hardened. "For good reason. You are unmarried, alone with 2 children not born to you. And the county judge will not approve guardianship unless you can prove a stable home." The town went silent again, but this silence was heavier. Maud understood then. Martin had not come only for medicine. He had come because a grieving cowboy had been told that 2 orphaned children might be taken away unless he found a wife quickly enough to satisfy men who knew nothing about lonely ranches. Martin bent, lifted Maud's broken trunk as if it weighed nothing, and set it in the back of his wagon parked beside the feed store. Mrs. Bell called after him, "You take her under your roof, and folks will talk." Martin's hand rested on the wagon rail. "Folks already do." He looked at Maud. "You hungry?" The question nearly undid her. Not the offer of rescue, not the public defense, just the fact that someone had seen her body tremble and named the simplest need without shame. "Yes," she admitted. "Then climb in." Maud did, though half the town watched as if she were climbing into ruin. The twins shifted from horse to wagon, keeping their distance, measuring her with orphaned caution. Martin tied the bay behind, took the reins, and drove north. Behind them, Cottonwood Falls shrank into dust, judgment, and church bells, beginning to ring for a funeral Maud had not known was planned. The Sutter Ranch sat 4 miles beyond town, where the prairie opened wide and lonely under a pale winter sky. A windmill turned with a tired groan near the barn. The house was plain, built of weathered boards and stubborn need. Smoke rose from the chimney, but the yard had the neglected look of a place where grief had been doing the chores badly. Martin helped Maud down without touching more than her elbow. "The house is not fine," he said. "I was sleeping behind the livery last night," Maud answered. Fine has changed meaning. For the first time, the corner of his mouth moved like it remembered how to smile, but would not risk it. Inside, the kitchen smelled of ashes, coffee, and old sorrow. 2 tin plates sat unwashed by the basin. A child's sock lay near the stove. On a peg by the door hung a woman's shawl, gray and still, as though its owner might come back from the henhouse at any moment. Maud saw Martin notice her looking. "My sister-in-law's," he said. "Nora. She and my brother Thomas died in fever last spring." "I'm sorry." He nodded, but the words did not reach him. Some grief sat too deep for condolences. The twins stood near the table. Caleb coughed into his sleeve. Lila watched Maud's hands. "May I examine him?" Maud asked. Martin looked to Caleb. "You say yes or no." The boy seemed surprised his answer mattered. After a moment, he nodded. Maud warmed her hands over the stove first. It was a small thing, but Lila saw it. Children noticed whether adults came at them like weather or like shelter. Caleb sat on a chair. Maud listened to his breathing, checked his throat, felt under his jaw. His cough was deep but not yet settled in the lungs. Lila had the same beginning fever, though she tried to hide it by standing straight. They need broth, rest, warm cloths, and honey if you have it, Maud said. Not laudanum, not unless the fever worsens. Mostly they need watching. Martin's gaze sharpened. Vale sold me laudanum. He sells it often. T.O. Anyone with coin. Maud closed her bag. Then I'm glad you brought them home. He looked at the twins, then at the darkening window. I did not bring them home alone. The words hung there. Maud understood he was not sentimental. He was practical. He needed help. She needed shelter. Any gentleness between them would have to grow in narrow ground. Martin made coffee and fried salt pork, while Maud prepared a thin broth from dried beans and onions. She moved around the kitchen, as if she belonged to no house and every sick room. She found clean rags, boiled water, washed the children's faces, and coaxed them to sip. Caleb asked, "Are you our new aunt?" Maud stopped. Martin set the coffee pot down too hard. "No," he said. The boy's cheeks reddened. Maud crouched before him. "I am Dr. Kingsley. For tonight, I am here to help you breathe easier." "That is enough," Lila whispered. "Doctors, leave." Maud felt the words like a pin under the nail. "Sometimes they do, will you?" Maud had no answer that would not be a lie. She had no home, no money, no town willing to trust her, and no right to promise permanence to a child who had already buried too much. Martin answered instead, "Not tonight. That night." Maud slept in a chair beside the stove, waking each time the twins coughed. Martin slept not at all. He sat by the far wall, hat in his hands, eyes on the children. Once, near midnight, Lila began to cry in her sleep. Martin rose but stopped halfway, as if unsure whether comfort from him would help or hurt. Maud touched the child's forehead. "Lila," she murmured, "you are warm. You are safe. Breathe slow." Lila's fingers caught Maud's sleeve and held fast. Martin watched that small grip as though it were a judgment upon him. Near dawn, Caleb's fever broke. Sweat dampened his hair. Maud changed his cloth and felt relief loosen her shoulders. Martin noticed. "You did well. I did my work. Not everyone does." Morning came gray and cold. The twins slept late. Martin fed the stock, split wood, and returned with snow clinging to his boots. Maud had swept the kitchen, washed the dishes, and found flour enough for biscuits. "You don't have to clean," he said. "I know. Then why?" She shaped the dough with quick hands. "Because I am staying under this roof today, and I want make extra burden." He stood in the doorway, carrying an armload of wood. "About staying," Maud kept her eyes on the bowl. "Martin set the wood down. Judge Harlan comes Friday. If he decides I cannot provide a proper home, he sends the twins to an orphan house in Abilene." Maud's hands stilled. "He told me marriage would help," Martin said. "Not love, not romance, just a woman in the house. Someone respectable." Maud gave a small laugh without humor. "Then, you brought the wrong woman." "I brought the one who warmed her hands before touching a sick child." She looked at him. He removed his hat. The gesture made him seem suddenly less like a hard rancher, and more like a man standing at the edge of a cliff. "I can offer shelter, food, wages if I can manage them, and my name, if that is what it takes to keep them. I will not ask for more than help with the children and the house. I will not touch you without leave. I will not pretend grief is courtship." Maud's heart struck once hard. "A marriage offer?" she said. "A bargain," he answered. "For their sake, and my be yours." The biscuits burned, because she forgot them. Outside, a train whistle drifted faintly from town, reminding Maud that every track led somewhere she could not afford to go. She thought of the boarding house porch, Dr. Val's voice, the instruments in the dust. She thought of Caleb's small chest rattling under her stethoscope, and Lila's fingers gripping her sleeve. "A bargain like that can ruin a woman," she said. "Seems to me cottonwood falls already try, and I am already ruined in ways they cannot see." The honesty was plain and unsweetened. Maud looked toward the sleeping room where the twins lay beneath patched quilts. Shelter was not safety. Marriage was not love. A ranch could become another prison. Yet Martin Sutter had asked with his hat in his hands, not power in his voice. "I will stay until Judge Harlan comes," she said. "I will help you make your case. After that, we decide what is honest." Martin nodded. It was not yes, it was not no, but for 2 frightened children and 2 wounded adults, it was the first plank laid across deep water. The next days built themselves out of small tasks. Maud learned the ranch before she learned Martin. The front steps sagged. The pump froze if no one rapped it at dusk. The stove drew smoke unless the left iron plate sat crooked. The hens preferred laying under the hay manger, and the old milk cow kicked if approached from the right. Martin learned Maud the same way. She rose before light without being asked. She measured the twins' fever on a paper chart she pinned beside the stove. She boiled willow bark for pain, but refused to dose children into silence. She mended Caleb's sleeve with thread so neat, Lila ran her finger over the seam in wonder. At breakfast, Caleb asked if all doctors sewed. "Good ones do," Maud said. Martin glanced at the sleeve. "Then I have worn poor doctoring most of my life." Caleb laughed, then coughed, and Lila smiled for the first time. Trust did not come like lightning. It came like bread rising near the stove, slow and warm under a cloth. On the 3rd morning, Maud found Martin in the barn, struggling to harness a restless mare, while favoring his left shoulder. He tried to hide pain the way men on the frontier often did, as though admitting a hurt invited wolves. "You tore something," Maud said. "No, you lift with one arm and breathe through your teeth." Martin tightened the buckle. "Mare needs shoeing. So does your pride." He looked at her then, startled. Lila giggled from the high loft. Maud sat her medical bag on a barrel. "Sit down. I have work. You have children." "Sit." My bay, it was the firmness. My bay, it was the children watching. Martin sat. His shoulder had been strained badly, perhaps from lifting feed sacks or carrying too much grief in muscle and bone. Maud warmed liniment, wrapped the joint, and showed him how to rest it in a sling at night. "Can you heal it?" Caleb asked. "Not if he keeps pretending he has 2 good shoulders," Martin said. "I hear you." "No," Maud answered. "You heard me. Obeying is different." Lila laughed outright, bright as a bell. The sound changed the barn. Martin looked up at the child, and the grief in his face cracked enough for Maud to see what lay beneath. Not only sorrow, fear. He feared failing them. He feared loving them and losing them. He feared that whatever softness he gave would teach them to depend on something the county could take. That afternoon, Maud rode with him to check the north fence. He did not ask if she could ride, only handed her the gentler horse and waited. The prairie rolled brown and gold under a hard blue sky. Wind tugged at her bonnet. Far off, cattle moved like dark stones across grass. Martin worked mostly in silence, but silence beside him was different from silence in town. It did not accuse. At a broken post, he climbed down too quickly and winced. Maud said nothing. She took the hammer from the saddlebag and held the post steady while he drove the nails one-handed. "You've done this before," he said. "My father believed daughters should learn usefulness before refinement. He a doctor, too. A preacher." Maud's voice softened. "He died when I was 16. My mother before that. Any kin, known who claimed me." The hammer paused. She did not add more. Not yet. Some wounds had to unfold in stages, or they tore open too wide. When they returned, Lila had arranged 4 tin cups on the table for supper, without being asked. Caleb had drawn a picture on brown wrapping paper. It showed a house, a horse, 2 children, a tall man, and a woman with a black bag. "What is this?" Maud asked. "Our place," Caleb said. Martin grew still. Maud folded the paper carefully and set it on the mantel. Not because the drawing was fine, but because the child needed to see it kept. That night, after the twins slept, Martin stood by the window. I had a wife once, he said. Maud looked up from sterilizing instruments. He did not turn. Her name was Abigail. She died 3 years ago, giving birth to a son who died before morning. The stove ticked. I'm sorry, Maud said. People think I am cold because I buried them and kept working. Truth is, if I stopped, I would have lain down beside them. Maud set the instrument cloth aside. My brother Thomas and Nora came west with the twins last year. Fever took them both within 2 days. Caleb saw too much. Lila stopped talking for a month. I signed for the children because no one else stood there to do it. Then why does the judge doubt you? Martin's jaw tightened. Because Dr. Vale wrote a letter saying the children were neglected. Said Nora would never have wanted them with an unmarried rancher. Said I was often away, rough in manner, unsuited to tender raising. Was he their doctor? No, but he has friends. Maud felt anger rise clean and sharp. Why would he do that? Martin finally turned. Because he wants the North Flats for a cattle road. My land sits across the easiest pass to the rail spur. If the twins are taken, I might lose heart enough to sell. The secret sharpened the whole picture. Dr. Val's attack on Maud, his refusal to treat the twins, his interest in Martin's guardianship, not just cruelty, profit. Then Friday is not about your household, Maud said. It is about your land, and the children are the lever. Maud looked toward the bedroom. Then we will not let him use them. Martin studied her face. Way? The word had slipped out. It stood between them like a lamp newly lit. Maud could have stepped back from it. Instead, she tied the instrument cloth into a firm knot. Yes, she said. The next morning, she began preparing for Judge Harlan as if for surgery. She cleaned the house from door to window, not to impress the town with false polish, but to show the truth beneath neglect. She wrote down the twins' meals, medicines, temperatures, and improvements. She sorted Martin's guardianship papers. She asked him hard questions and refused vague answers. How many acres? 640. Debt. Some. How much? He hesitated. She waited. $200 to the feed store, $80 to the bank, and $37 to the livery. Say it plainly to the judge before Vale says it wickedly. He nodded. Can you read contracts? Well enough. Can you read lies dressed as contracts? His mouth tightened. My bay not. So after supper, Maud read by lantern while Martin listened. The twins slept in the next room. Snow tapped the window like small bones. She explained clauses, debts, guardianship language. Martin did not bristle when she knew more. He asked questions. He learned. His respect did not flatter her. It gave her room to stand upright. On Thursday evening, Lila brought Maud the gray shawl from the peg. This was Mama's, the child said. Maud's breath caught. It is beautiful. Could you wear it tomorrow? Not forever. Just when the judge comes. Martin, from the doorway, looked stricken. Maud knelt. Lila, no one can take your mama's place. The child's lips trembled. I know, but my behel. See, we are not alone. Maud looked at Martin. His eyes were wet, though no tear fell. She took the shawl with both hands. Then, I will wear it with honor. Judge Harlan arrived Friday with Dr. Vale in the same wagon. That told Maud more than any greeting. The judge was a broad man with tired eyes and a black coat powdered with road dust. He looked less cruel than worn down by too many decisions made from papers instead of kitchens. Dr. Vale climbed down after him, carrying a leather folder and the satisfied air of a man who had prepared the ending before the play began. Martin met them in the yard, clean-shaven, shoulder wrapped under his coat, hat in hand. Ma stood on the porch wearing Nora's gray shawl. The twins held hands beside her. Judge Harlan's gaze moved from Martin to Maud. You are Mrs. Sutter. No, sir, Ma said. Dr. Vale smiled. Martin answered. She is Dr. Maud Kingsley. She has been caring for the children. A doctor, the judge asked. A dismissed hospital woman, Dr. Vale corrected. and homeless as of this week. Maud felt the old shame try to bend her neck. This time, she did not let it. Both statements require context, she said. Judge Harlan lifted a brow. You'll have a chance to provide it. They entered the house. Maud served coffee. Caleb and Lila sat at the table, scrubbed clean but not staged into false cheer. Martin answered questions about crops, cattle, debts, schooling, church attendance, winter stores. When he spoke too little, Maud prompted him with a look. When Dr. Vale exaggerated, she opened her ledger. The children's coughs have improved, she said, turning the page. Fever peaked Tuesday night and broke Wednesday morning. They have eaten broth, beans, biscuits, and stewed apples. Caleb's breathing is clear today. Lila has no fever. Dr. Vale gave a soft laugh. A neat list does not make a home. No, Maud said. But neglect would leave a different list. Judge Harlan examined the ledger. Your handwriting is steady. My hands shake. Only when I'm hungry, sir. Martin looked at her sharply. She had not meant to reveal that much. Dr. Vale seized the moment. You see, this woman cannot even provide for herself. How can she be trusted in a household with children? Martin leaned forward. She went hungry because Cottonwood Falls shut every door after you slandered her. Slander requires falsehood, Vale said. Judge Harlan turned to Maud. Why were you dismissed? The room seemed to shrink. Maud looked at the twins. Martin noticed and said, Children, go check if the hen's laid. Lila hesitated. Caleb obeyed, tugging her with him. When the door closed, Maud folded her hands. I trained at St. Bartholomew's Hospital in St. Louis, she said. I was not called doctor by many there, but I did the work. One night a railroad foreman came in with a crushed leg and fever. The senior physician ordered an amputation, then left to attend a dinner. I prepared the instruments. Before he returned, the patient worsened. I sent for him twice. He did not come. She paused. The man died before surgery. The physician wrote that I had delayed treatment out of panic. His assistant signed the statement. I was dismissed? Did you delay? Judge Harlan asked. No. Can you prove it? Maud's throat tightened. I had a nurse willing to speak, but she was transferred before the hearing. My notes disappeared. Dr. Vale closed his folder with a snap. Convenient. Maud turned to him. Yes, it was convenient for the man who left his patient. For a moment, no one moved. Judge Harlan studied her. Why come here? Because the hospital marked me unfit. Towns with established doctors would not take me. I answered an advertisement for medical assistance in Cottonwood Falls. Martin looked at Dr. Vale. Your advertisement? Vale's eyes flickered. I advertised for a male assistant, he said. The notice said assistant physician, Maud answered. No gender. And when she arrived, Martin said, you made sure she had nowhere to stand. Judge Harlan rubbed his forehead. Enough. This hearing concerns the children. It concerns the truth, Martin said. The judge's eyes hardened. Careful, Mr. Sutter. The law is not moved by anger, no, Maud said softly. But children are harmed by lies. Judge Harlan looked back at her. She did not plead. She had done enough pleading in life. She simply opened another page. These children are grieving. They wake from nightmares. They fear trains because their parents' wagon camp was near the rail line when fever took hold, and the whistle was the last sound they remember before strangers carried bodies away. They do not need removal to another institution. They need consistency, food, warmth, schooling, and an adult who allows them to remember their parents without being swallowed by the remembering. Martin's face changed. He had known pieces of the children's fear, but not the whole shape. Maud had learned it from Lila while braiding her hair, from Caleb while listening to his chest, from silence when the afternoon train blew. Judge Harlan closed the ledger slowly. Dr. Vale said, touching, but she is not family. No, Martin said. Not yet. The words struck the room. Maud turned to him. Martin did not take his eyes off the judge. If marriage is what the court requires, I will marry Dr. Kingsley. Dr. Vale laughed. There it is. A desperate arrangement with a disgraced woman. Judge Harlan asked, Dr. Kingsley, have you agreed to this? Maud looked at Martin. In his face, she saw no demand, no ownership, no romantic illusion. She saw a man offering his name like a bridge, knowing it might break under both of them. I agreed to stay until today, she said. I have not agreed to marry. Dr. Vale smiled again. Martin's expression did not change, but something in his eyes stepped back, giving her room even now. Judge Harlan stood. Then I cannot finalize guardianship. I will return in 10 days. The children remain here until then, provided Dr. Kingsley stays as medical caretaker. If by that time Mr. Sutter can demonstrate a stable household, I will consider a permanent guardianship. And if not, Martin asked, then the children go to Abilene. The words entered the house like winter. Outside, the twins were laughing softly near the henhouse, unaware of how close the world had come to taking them. Dr. Vale left satisfied, but not victorious. Men like him hated delays because truth sometimes grew in them. That evening, Martin went to the barn and did not come in for supper. Ma found him after dark, standing by an empty stall. A lantern hung from a nail, its light swinging with the wind. I should not have said it before asking you, he said. No, I was afraid. I know. He touched the stall rail. This was Abigail's mare's stall. After she died, I sold the mare. Could not bear seeing it empty. Then I kept the stall empty anyway. That is the kind of sense grief makes. Maud stood beside him. I do not want to trap you, he said. You have been trapped enough. The words opened something in her. I was engaged once, Maud said. Martin turned. His name was Peter Ellery. He was a surgeon at the hospital when I was blamed for the patient's death. He told me privately that he believed me. Publicly, he said nothing. Then he married the daughter of the physician who wrote the accusation. Martin's jaw tightened. He said he had no choice, Maud continued. Men often say that when they choose comfort, I am not him. No, she said. That is why I am still here. The lantern flame fluttered. Martin's voice was rough. Would marrying me be another door slamming shut? Maud looked toward the house where two small silhouettes passed behind a lit curtain. It might be, she said honestly. Or it might be the first door I helped build. He waited. She appreciated that more than any vow. I will not marry you to satisfy Dr. Vale, she said. I will not marry for pity, hunger, or fear. But if I marry, it will be because I choose the children, this work, this roof, and the man who has not once asked me to be smaller than I am. Martin swallowed. That is more than I hoped for, he said. It is not an answer yet. I know. In the morning, the deeper wound arrived wearing a black coat and carrying a polished cane. Peter Ellery stepped down from the first train into Cottonwood Falls. News of Peter Ellery's arrival reached the Sutter Ranch before the man did. The feast store boy rode out at noon with flour, coffee, and gossip too large for his chest. Fancy doctor from St. Louis is in town, he told Martin while unloading sacks. Says he knows Dr. Kingsley. Says she ain't safe near patients. Dr. Vale's putting him up. Maud was on the porch with Lila's mending in her lap. The needle stopped midair. Martin paid the boy and sent him off before speaking. Who is he? The man who once said he believed me. Martin's eyes darkened. And now he has come a long way to make sure no one else does. That evening, Peter Ellery arrived with Dr. Vale in a hired buggy. He looked exactly as Maud remembered, and nothing like the man she had loved. His beard was trimmed, his boots clean, his gloves too soft for the prairie. He removed his hat on the porch as if entering a parlor. Maud, he said gently. I hoped we might speak. Martin stood in the doorway. Then speak where I can hear. Peter glanced at him. This is a private matter. No, Ma said. She rose. It stopped being private when you crossed 3 states to bury me twice. Peter's face tightened, then smoothed. I came to help. Dr. Vale wrote, That you were practicing medicine again. You know the danger to patients, Maud asked. Or to men who lied. Dr. Vale stepped forward. Careful. Martin's voice came low. You are on my porch. Peter looked at Martin with polished pity. Mr. Sutter, you are grieving and vulnerable. I understand you need a woman to keep your household, but this one carries scandal that could cost you the children. Maud felt Lila press against her skirt from behind. Caleb stood in the kitchen doorway, listening. Peter saw them and softened his voice further. Children require protection. Maud stepped between him and the doorway. Then stop using them as weapons. Peter looked pained. He had always done injury with a wounded expression, as if forcing others to comfort him for the harm he caused. I did not sign the dismissal statement, he said. No. You merely stood beside the men who did. I had a career to preserve. There it is, Maud said. The truth at last. Dr. Vale held out a folded paper. Judge Harlan will receive this tomorrow. A statement from Dr. Ellery, confirming your dismissal for negligence. Martin snatched the paper, but Maud touched his arm. Let me read it. She read every word. Each line was careful enough to avoid outright accusation, poisonous enough to destroy. It said she had been present during an avoidable death. It said her judgment had been questioned. It said no reputable institution had reinstated her. It did not say she killed anyone, because Peter knew she had not. Maud looked up. You came with half a lie, because a whole one might damn you. Peter flushed. I came because I still care what happens to you. Martin moved then, one step only, but the porch seemed smaller. You do not get to care after cowardice, he said. Dr. Vale smiled coldly. This household is unraveling before the judge even returns. No, Maud said. He is being tested. Peter's eyes found hers. Come back with me. I can arrange a position, not as a physician perhaps, but respectable work. You need not tie yourself to a desperate rancher and two sickly children. The slap was not physical, but Martin felt it. Maud saw his hand close around the doorframe, not in anger for himself, in pain for the children hearing themselves reduced to burdens. Caleb whispered, Are we sickly? Maud turned at once. No, you are healing. Peter sighed. Maud, do not be dramatic. Martin opened the door wider. Go, Vale said. You will regret this. I regret not throwing you off my land sooner. Martin replied. They left under a sky, turning purple with cold. That night, Caleb would not eat. Lila put Nora's shawl back on the peg, and would not touch it. The house that had begun to warm seemed suddenly full of old ghosts and new fear. Maud found Caleb sitting behind the woodbox. If the judge takes us, he asked, will you come? Maud sat on the floor beside him, heedless of dust. I will fight so he does not. That is not what I asked. No child should have eyes that old. Maud answered carefully. I do not know what the law will allow, but I will not forget you. Not for one day. People say that before leaving. Yes, Maud said. They do. She could have promised. Instead, she took his small hand and placed it over her heartbeat. Feel that? He nodded. While it beats, I will try. It was not enough, but it was true. Later, Maud found Martin hitching a horse in the moonlit yard. Where are you going? To town. For what? Peter Ellery. Vale, the judge, whoever will hear me, and say what? That they are liars. Maud stepped in front of the horse. With your fists or your grief? Martin's face twisted. They are taking them. Not yet. They will. Not if we think. I am tired of thinking, while men like Vale sharpen papers. So am I, she said. But if you write in angry, they will call you unstable. They will say you prove their point. He let out a breath that shook in the cold. What would you have me do? Trust me. The words surprised them both. Martin looked at her, and in that long look was the whole road they had traveled from dust to kitchen warmth, from bargain to something with roots. I do, he said. Maud nearly broke then, because belief had been rarer than love in her life. She went inside and opened her trunk. Beneath the torn lining, wrapped in oilcloth, was the one thing she had not sold. Her father's pocket Bible. Pressed inside it were 2 letters from St. Louis, too painful to read and too important to discard. One from Nurse Clara Whitcomb, who had witnessed the hospital night. One from an orderly named Joseph Pike, who had seen Peter remove Maud's notes from the chart room. They were not legal testimony. Not yet, but they were names. Truth had names. I kept them because I could not bear to hope, she told Martin. He read the letters by lantern. His hands trembled with restrained fury. We need these people, he said. Yes, sir. Louis is days away. Clara moved west. Maud said her letter came from Mercy Junction. That is 40 miles by rail. Martin stood. Morning train. There is no money for 2 tickets. I have Abigail's wedding band. No, it sits in a box. It was hers, and she would not ask me to keep a ring while losing living children. The sacrifice struck deep. Maud understood then that love for the dead could become an altar where the living starved. Martin was choosing otherwise, not forgetting Abigail, not replacing her, choosing life. At dawn, he placed the small gold band on the kitchen table. Lila saw it and began to cry. That was Aunt Abigail's, she said. Martin knelt before her. Yes. Are you selling her? His face crumpled, but he held steady. No, little bird. I am using what she left to protect what she loved. Lila stared at him. Then she took the ring, kissed it, and put it back in his palm. Then tell her, thank you, she whispered. Martin could not speak. Maud went to Mercy Junction alone, because Martin could not leave the twins before the hearing. He drove her to the station in Cottonwood Falls. Townspeople watched from windows. Dr. Vale stood near the depot, speaking with Peter. As Ma stepped onto the platform, Peter approached. You are making this worse, he said. No, Ma answered. I am making it public. The train came in screaming steam. Martin carried her bag to the steps. What if she refuses? He asked. Then I come back with less hope, not less truth. It held every abandonment he had endured. Maud looked at him. Martin Sutter, I have spent my life being left. I know the shape of it. I will not give that shape to you or those children. He nodded, but his eyes shone. She boarded with Abigail's ring exchanged for a ticket, and $10 folded in her glove. Mercy Junction was larger, louder, and unkind to strangers in a different way. Maud found the address from the letter at dusk, a small laundry behind a hotel. Clara Whitcomb opened the door with soap-reddened hands, and a face that went pale at the sight of her. Maud, I need the truth, Maud said. Clara looked past her as if expecting the past to follow. It already cost me my position. It might cost 2 children their home. If you stay silent, that did what friendship could not. Clara invited her in. By midnight, Maud had not only Clara's sworn statement, but Joseph Pike's whereabouts. He worked at the rail yard 3 streets over. By morning, he had given his own statement, ashamed and eager to clear the debt of silence. Peter had taken Maud's notes. The senior physician had been away. The patient's death had been blamed on the easiest woman to discard. Maud returned on the evening train with 2 signed statements and no money left. But Dr. Vale had learned she was gone. At the Sutter Ranch, while Maud was still miles away, he made his move. He brought Judge Harlan early. Martin was splitting wood when the judge's wagon rolled into the yard 2 days before the appointed hearing. Dr. Vale sat beside him. Peter Ellery rode behind on a chestnut horse. The twins were in the kitchen making dough with flour on their noses. Martin set down the essay. You are early, he said. Judge Harlan looked uncomfortable. New evidence requires prompt attention. New lies, you mean? Mind yourself. Dr. Vale held up a paper. Dr. Kingsley has fled. That should settle the question of stability. Lila came onto the porch, flour on her hands. She did not flee. Peter removed his hat. Child, sometimes adults make promises they cannot keep. Caleb stepped beside his sister. She said, She would try while her heart beats. Martin moved in front of them. Judge Harlan's face tightened with pity, which Martin hated more than anger. "Mr. Sutter," the judge said, "without Dr. Kingsley present, without a wife, and with serious concerns about your temper and finances, I must place the children temporarily in county care." Lila screamed. The sound tore across the yard, startling horses and hens, and every buried grief in Martin's chest. Caleb grabbed the porch rail with both hands. No, Martin turned, gathered both children against him, and for one moment he looked like a man holding back a flood with his arms. "You said 10 days, he told the judge. "I said conditions must remain stable. They are fed, warm, loved. Love is not the only requirement. It ought to count before a doctor's grudge." Dr. Vale snapped. Dr. Vale snapped. "This is precisely the volatility I described." Peter looked away. The judge stepped toward the porch. "Children, gather your things." "No," Lila sobbed into Martin's coat. Martin's arms tightened. His face went white with the force of not fighting. Maud had asked him to trust her. Every instinct told him to resist with his body, his fists, his horse, his life. But the children would pay for his rage, so he knelt. He held Caleb and Lila by the shoulders. "Listen to me," he said, though his voice shook. "You are Sutters by love, if not yet by law. No wagon changes that. No paper changes that. I will come." Caleb cried silently. Lila clung to him until Judge Harlan's assistant had to gently pry her fingers loose. That was when the northbound train whistled. Everyone turned. From the distant road, a wagon came fast, driven by the feed store boy, wheels throwing mud. In the wagon bed sat Maud Kingsley, one hand gripping her medical bag, the other clutching papers to her chest. Beside her sat Clara Whitcomb, bonnet loose, face set hard against fear. The wagon skidded into the yard. Maud climbed down before it fully stopped. "Judge Harlan," she called. You remove those children before reading these statements. You will be helping thieves steal a family." Dr. Vale's face lost color. Peter closed his eyes. Judge Harlan took one step toward her. "Dr. Kingsley." "Yes," she said, breathless from cold and speed. "Not fled. Return." Lila broke free and ran to her. Maud caught the child with one arm but kept the papers high and dry. Martin stood slowly. His face was something Maud had never seen before, hope and terror together. "I told you," she said to him. His voice failed, so he only nodded. They moved the hearing into the kitchen, because the children were shaking too hard outside. Judge Harlan read Clara's statement first, then Joseph Pike's. Clara spoke aloud when asked, her voice trembling at first, then gaining strength. She told of the hospital night, the absent physician, the missing notes, the punishment of those who questioned powerful men. Peter sat like a man collapsing inward. Judge Harlan looked at him. "Did you know these statements were true?" Peter's mouth opened. Maud waited. So did Martin. So did the children, though they did not understand every word. At last, Peter said, "Yes." Dr. Vale slammed his cane against the floor. "This is irrelevant to guardianship." "No," Judge Harlan said. His tired eyes had gone sharp. "It speaks to your credibility, and to Dr. Kingsley's." Maud placed one more paper on the table. "What is this?" the judge asked. "A copy of Dr. Vale's advertisement requesting an assistant physician. His claim that I arrived falsely is another lie." The judge read it. Martin looked at Vale. "You brought her here to reject her." Maud understood fully then. "You needed a scandal ready. If I looked unfit, and Martin sheltered me, you could use me against him. If he refused me, I would vanish." Vale said nothing. Peter whispered. "Ephraim said the ranch matter was separate." Maud looked at him with sad astonishment. "You still blame other men for the place your own feet stand." The judge folded the papers with care. "Dr. Vale, I will be forwarding this to the county board and the medical society in St. Louis. Mr. Sutter, I find no cause to remove the children. Temporary guardianship is extended into permanent guardianship, pending standard filing. Lila did not understand the words until Martin began to cry. He turned away at first, but Maud saw, everyone saw. The grieving cowboy, who had been called too cold for children, broke down in his own kitchen because the law had finally said he could keep loving them. Caleb ran to him. Lila followed. Martin knelt and held them both. Judge Harlan cleared his throat. There remains the question of household stability. Martin looked up. Maud stepped forward before fear could return. There does, she said. She removed Nora's gray shawl from her shoulders and placed it gently over the back of a chair. Then she faced Martin. Not the judge, not the townmen, not Peter, not Vale. Martin Sutter, I will not marry you because a court requires a woman near your stove. I will not marry you because I was hungry, homeless, or slandered. I will not marry you because children need a shape called mother placed over their grief before they are ready. Martin's face went still. Maud's voice softened. I will marry you because you picked my instruments out of the dust when everyone else stepped around them. Because you let a child say no. Because you sold a ring you loved to protect children you refused to lose. Because this house has room for the dead without sacrificing the living. And because somewhere between broth, fence posts, fever charts, and lantern light, I stopped needing shelter only from weather. Lila looked up. Does that mean yes? Maud smiled through tears. It means yes, if your uncle still asks. Martin stood, slowly, as if the whole world might vanish if he moved too quickly. He took off his hat. Maud Kingsley, he said, voice rough. Will you be my wife in truth? Not bargain alone, not pity. Truth? Yes, she said. In truth. Judge Harlan, perhaps eager to repair what nearly broke, married them that afternoon in the Sutter yard because no one wanted to give Dr. Vale's town the honor of the first blessing. The feast store boy rode for Reverend Pye, who arrived, breathless with his Bible. Clara stood beside Maud. Caleb held a bunch of dried prairie grass tied with twine. Lila wore Nora's gray shawl over her shoulders. Solemn as a queen, Martin had no ring. Maud had known that before he could say it. When the moment came, he looked ashamed. I sold what I had, he whispered. Maud reached into her medical bag and drew out a small brass key from her broken trunk. This opened every place I carried my loneliness, she said. Let it open this one differently. He tied the key to a bit of leather cord and slipped it over her wrist like a promise. It was plain. It was poor. It was perfect. When they spoke their vows, the prairie wind moved through the grass. Far off, the evening train whistled, but this time Caleb did not flinch. Lila took his hand, and Maud saw the moment the sound became only a sound again, not a wound. Dr. Vale left Cottonwood Falls within a month, after enough men learned his cattle road scheme to close their doors to him. Peter Ellery returned east with his polished cane and a confession that came too late to be noble, but soon enough to clear Maud's name. A letter arrived from St. Louis before spring, stating that Dr. Maud Kingsley's dismissal had been reviewed and her standing restored. She read it at the kitchen table while Martin poured coffee, and the twins argued over who had fed the chickens more responsibly. Well, Martin asked. Maud folded the letter. It says I might practice medicine again. He set down the pot. You never stop. That spring, a small sign appeared beside the Sutter front gate. Dr. Maud Kingsley, Sutter patient seen by appointment or emergency. Some townspeople came grudgingly at first. A burned hand, a fevered baby, a ranch hand kicked by a mule. Maud treated them all with the same steady hands. She did not ask who had laughed when her bag lay in the dirt. Martin, sitting on the porch sharpening tools, remembered for her. Cottonwood Falls changed the way towns change when forced by truth and time. Slowly, unevenly, with whispers first, then nods, then casseroles left after hard births and winter sickness. Mrs. Bell came one rainy evening with a swollen wrist and shame hidden under her bonnet. Maud wrapped it without cruelty. I was wrong, Mrs. Bell said. Yes, Maud answered, not softening the truth. I am sorry. Maud pinned the bandage. Then he'll better. The woman blinked, then nodded. Forgiveness, Maud learned, did not always feel like warm tears. Sometimes it felt like refusing to carry someone else's ugliness one more mile. Martin's grief did not vanish. On Abigail's birthday, he took flowers to the hill beyond the creek where she and the baby rested. Maud went with him the first year, but stood back until he reached for her hand. I loved her, he said. I know. I loved you. I know that too. He looked at her then, almost smiling. You are a hard woman to surprise. No, Maud said. I am a woman, learning not to mistake peace for danger. He kissed her hand, gentle as a vow spoken twice. Caleb and Lila grew rounder in the cheeks and louder in the mornings. They called Maud Dr. Maud for months, then Aunt Maud by accident, then Mama Maud after Lila woke from a storm dream, and the name came out before fear could stop it. Maud cried in the pantry where no one could see. Martin found her anyway. Too much? He asked. She shook her head. Enough? That is what frightened me. By summer, the ranch no longer looked neglected. Beans climbed holes by the kitchen window. Clean quilts aired on the line. Martin repaired the porch steps. Maud planted chamomile and lavender near the fence. The empty stall in the barn held a new mare, gentle enough for the twins to brush. One golden evening, just as the sun lowered red behind the prairie, Martin came in from the pasture to find Maud on the porch with Caleb asleep against one side and Lila leaning against the other. Her medical bag sat by her feet, closed and polished. The brass key on her wrist caught the light. Martin stopped at the gate. Maud looked up. What is it? He took in the house, the children, the woman who had arrived homeless and hungry, and now held the center of his world with both hands. I was thinking, he said, that I went to town needing a wife for the orphaned twins. Maud smiled softly and found a homeless doctor needing shelter. He came up the steps, bent, and kissed the top of Caleb's head, then Lila's, then Maud's brow. No, he said. I found home before I knew what to call it. The evening train whistled beyond Cottonwood Falls. The twins slept through it. The prairie wind moved warm over the porch. Inside, the stove waited, the table waited, the lamplight waited, and beneath the wide western sky, Maud Kingsley Sutter sat beside Martin Sutter, with two children safe between them. No longer a bargain, no longer a rescue, but a family chosen in dust, defended in truth, and held together by love that had learned how to stay.